Hello, everyone. Straight away, there's a problem. I can't seem to get my video to work. It was working earlier on, and it's not working now. Hopefully, you can hear me. I think there's a chat box as well if you've got any questions. So I'm just making sure that I've opened the chat box. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Mel Kinchant. I'm one of the academic development tutors in one of our 3 learning development centres at Glasgow Caledonian University. And today I'm just going to give, hi, Mohammed, I can see your chat there. So I'm just going to give an overview in terms of an introduction of learning development centres, what we are, and explain a little bit about how we work to support you as a student at Glasgow Caledonian University. Okay, next slide, please, Oz, if that's okay. Good morning, Victoria. Hi. So the Learning Development Centres, we are here, I suppose this is kind of like our mission statement, I suppose, really. We're here to support and enhance students' learning and academic development throughout their time at Glasgow Caledonian University. And the Learning Development Centres, we're inclusive, and we're committed to providing support for all students, including those with specific learning and teaching needs. And I've put a link in the slides there. You can find us on the website if you just even Googled Glasgow Caledonian University Learning Development Centres. All 3 of us have a presence on the external website there as well. So we're here to support you, and it doesn't matter what your program of study is, it doesn't matter what level of study you are, it doesn't matter what your background is or where you come from. We're here to help support your learning journey, whatever that might look like for you. Next slide, please, Oz. So each school in the university has a learning development centre, and I think I'm okay to say this is quite a unique thing in terms of higher education in Scotland. I've worked at other universities as well, and whilst there is sort of similar roles in terms of helping support academic skills and that academic development journey, the structure in different universities is quite different to Glasgow Caledonian University, and we are actually very lucky in that we have a learning development centre for each of our 3 schools. And what essentially the Learning Development Centre does is it provides academic skills development guidance, particularly academic writing support for both home and international students, advice on study skills, and other academic support and guidance that is relevant to that particular school. And I think it's just important at this stage to highlight we don't focus specifically on content and subject. It's everything else in terms of being successful, particularly in your assessments as you go through your program of study. Next slide, please. Those are 3 schools. Okay, so the School of Health and Life Sciences, and that's the email there if you have any queries at all about that particular Learning Development Centre. I'm attached to the Glasgow School for Business and Society, but this presentation obviously is about all of the learning development centres, and that's our email there. And there's also the School of Computing, Engineering and Built Environment, and that's their email there as well. Hello everyone, I can see there's some other good mornings in the chat, so that's nice. Next slide, please. I don't know why my video is not working. Anyway, a little bit more about who we are. So the centres provide a variety of on-campus and online academic support. So there's lots of different ways that students can engage. And I think, again, exactly how we look and how we work with the students in our school will very much depend on that particular school and the programs within that school, because we try to meet the needs of those particular students. And so it's quite kind of bespoke. So we work in slightly different ways, but it's usually a combination of embedded. So that's in your timetable sessions. So we work very closely with your module leaders, your program leaders, your academic teaching staff to kind of, perhaps come into your timetable and deliver something related to academic skills, but it's something that is also linked to your assessment. So that's what we mean when we talk about embedded and timetabled sessions. We also have, each school has a number of online resources, again, working in slightly different ways that students can just go in and help themselves to. We also offer small group and one-to-one appointments as relevant. Again, how that looks depends on the school that you'll be attached to. And the guidance available to students is always provided in a professional and supportive environment, enabling students to develop the skills required for their programme of study, their level of study, to succeed at university and beyond. So we're always thinking about beyond your programme of study, particularly around employability skills. Next slide, please, Oz. So this is just an example of some of the academic skills. So this is an exhaustive list. So we would cover things like how to use evidence and demonstrate this in your academic work, particularly in consideration of academic integrity, structure and flow of your writing, demonstrating critical analysis, and that critical analysis is definitely something that will depend on your level of study as to the degree to which we cover that. Academic writing and reading, how to use feedback at university effectively to feed forward into your subsequent assessments, independent learning. So we're always mindful of, I suppose, giving you the tools rather than doing things for you, giving the tools to succeed in the future. Essays, reports, and other assignment types, exam preparation, group work, presentation skills, time management, and also ICT skills such as data visualization, digital coloration, posters, wikis, infographics, surveys, and the list goes on and on. Next slide, please. So just a little bit about what we are and what we're not. So we're not a proofreading or checking service. So if a student comes to me with a draft of their work, for example, I won't fully proofread it and I won't check it, and I'm unable to say whether it will pass or not, but I can give some academic skills and academic development related feedback on that piece of work. So that's a good use of our service to kind of get some formative feedback. And formative feedback it's feedback that you get before you hand in your final submission. So that's a good use of our service. We are not content subject specialists, so just kind of a reminder of what I was saying earlier on, but we do work very closely with your module and program leaders. Certainly in the school that I work in, we're all attached to different programs, so we each know our module leaders and program leaders very well, and we work with them to help support the students on their journey as in their program. We would always adopt what we call a strengths-based approach. Okay, so this is not a deficit model. We are not here, learning development centres are not here only for students who are maybe finding something a bit difficult, challenging, or they have any issues in terms of their studies. Yes, we definitely see students who perhaps haven't done something before. Why are you doing your program if you know it all already? Okay, you're here to learn, you're here to develop your skill set. So yes, we do see students like that, but also we would see students who are maybe getting really high marks and want even higher. So it actually doesn't matter at all where you are. There's no barrier to accessing the Learning Development Centre. We are here for all students. So we'd always adopt this strengths-based approach. And if a student comes to me and, for example, says, I don't have any strengths, I will always find strengths, because every single student at the university has strengths. They have things that they bring with them, and we're just going to use that and harness that in terms of developing you as you go forward. So we're here to support your academic skills development as part of your student journey. So yes, absolutely, the main thing is you're here because you want to learn your content or subject area. That's what our students at Glasgow Caledonian University are here for. But also as part of that, particularly when it comes to assessment, students have to demonstrate a certain ability in terms of their academic skills, their digital literacy skills, perhaps their employability skills, to be successful at that level in that particular assessment. So the two things really are going side by side. The other thing to mention is that we are free. We are open access. We're here for all students. In contrast, I suppose, to I don't want to talk too much about this, but some slightly dubious external sources of information for students. My advice would be you do not need to access anything externally because everything is here. We are free and we always work within the kind of guidance around academic integrity. Okay, so and I can honestly say, having worked in different universities, that the format and the structure at Glasgow Caledonian University in terms of academic skills development is outstanding. Okay. I'm not on any commission, by the way. Next slide, please. So any questions, you are more than welcome to email. That's the 3 emails. I know it's prospective students, and I'm not sure what programs you're interested in or the level of study you would be going into. But if you have any questions, don't think that you have to be a current student here to ask those questions in terms of the Learning Development Centres. Those are the 3 emails there. And I'm just going to open the floor now, the online floor, to see if there are any questions at all from students who are signed in live. I'll have a look at the chat box to see if any questions. Any questions at all about anything? I suppose in terms of academic skills development. Hi, Millie. I was at, right, okay. Sorry, that was someone else messaging me. I thought it was somebody signed in, but they're not. I'm seeing who else is. Is it Manaba? I'm sorry if I've pronounced your name incorrectly. I hate getting names pronounced incorrectly. Ezekiel as well. I'm not sure if I pronounced your name correctly. Any questions at all? I'm not forcing anyone to ask questions. Oh, there's Michelle. So Michelle's one of the colleagues. Hi, don't be shy. Feel free to ask any question. So that's from Michelle, one of my colleagues. Mohammed, is the Learning Development Centre is the choice of a student as a side study or mandatory? That's a really good question, Mohammed. So it depends, okay? So the Learning Development Centre will have invariably, it depends which school you're attached to, because obviously I can talk at length about the Learning Development Centre in Glasgow School for Business and Society. But certainly in our school, and I think it's the same for other schools as well, there'll be certain classes that we deliver, lectures or seminars, that will be mandatory because it's part of your timetable. So anything that is what we would call embedded, and certainly appearing in your student timetable, that would be mandatory attendance. So sometimes module leaders and program leaders will ask us to come into a timetabled session and deliver a particular session. So it might be, for example, I'm just saying off the top of my head, it might be students at level 2, they've got a report on this, can you come in and do a session on report writing? Because maybe it's only their first or second academic report. Okay, so then we would look and we would make sure that we look at the brief and everything and we see what students expected to do, and we would tailor a session to the particular assessment that the student is doing. But over and above those embedded timetabled sessions, then it is up to individual students how much or how little they engage with the Learning Development Centre. So we're not forcing ourselves upon you. So you don't have to book a one-to-one appointment. We would always argue that's going to do, at the very least, that's going to reassure you that you're doing all the right things. You don't have to come to any of our open sessions, and you don't have to access our online resources, but it's just there for you if you want to. So over and above the embedded sessions, but definitely the embedded sessions you would be expected to go to, as and where they exist, dependent on your program of study, level of study, and school? That's a really good question. Any other questions at all? I know that was quite long-winded, my response. Any other questions? And no such thing as a silly question at all. But I'm also not going to force you to ask a question if you don't have any, because I think it's hard to imagine what questions you might have at this stage. What I would say to anybody attending live is to maybe take a screenshot or a photo of the different emails, although you can find these on the external website as well. And if you have any questions that arise in the future, then please don't hesitate to email the specific address in relation to your school if you have any questions about learning development centres. The other thing that we do that I probably haven't said, only a small number, but it is possible. Sometimes students say, can we engage with you, or can we maybe have an appointment before we start? And that's absolutely fine as well. So I have seen students who have maybe been given an offer, accepted an offer, and then I've seen them before they start their particular program of study to talk about their academic skills development, and what sort of guidance they might need, and in terms of supporting them. So that's the other thing that I probably didn't mention in the slides. Right, there's more from Mohammed there. So let's suppose a student is working on a project which is not academic asked by leaders, but the student wants to develop but needs learning skills to do. In this case, will the Learning Development Centre help the student out, like specific skills? Yes. If they're, so yeah, absolutely. If they're what we would call sort of generic academic skills, sometimes there are skills that are very employability focused, for example, or very subject specific, and then it might be better for the student to seek guidance from their module leader, the marking team. Okay, they're the subject specialists. But I would always say to students, come to the Learning Development Centre, even if you're not sure, because we are very careful about saying, well, actually, you know, that's not us, that's very content and subject specific. Okay, but generic academic skills, such as the ones as an example I had on the slide, definitely we would support that, definitely, in terms of the different parts of that project. Does that answer your question, Mohammed? I hope so. Okay, there's another question there, Eric. Do you have a standard introduction course or set of resources for students who haven't been in education before? Don't know how any of this works. That's a really good question, Eric. So, okay, that might look quite different dependent again on your school, your program of study, and the level of study. So I'm not sure exactly what your background is, Eric, or what you're potentially interested in. But there, at the very least, so there usually is some sort of transition course or day or event, or certainly within our school, we certain students have a particular module. Then so I'm losing my train of thought because a message just came in. So yeah, there are certain particular events or resources or things that are available for students. But what I would do is I would get in contact with a particular school to find out specifically for you, Eric, as well. And certainly if you were in my school, you could email, and I would give you an appointment and signpost those resources to you. And I'm sure colleagues in the other schools would do exactly the same. But definitely a number of our students either haven't been in higher education before, or perhaps they're the learning, teaching, and assessment, the culture around that is different from their previous education, or they've had a big gap in their studies perhaps, or some of our students have gained entry to their program of study through prior accredited learning in their work experience, for example. Okay, so I know again that was a little bit vague and generic, Eric, but I would advise emailing your prospective school and asking what is particular for you in terms of supporting that. But definitely there are resources, and if you have a look at the external website, there are some open access resources already for each of the schools. Particularly, I know the Glasgow School for Business and Society, you can find some introductory information. Right, Mohammed. That's okay. You're very welcome. Peter, can someone change the course he's registered? Oh, Michelle, I don't know. Are you able to answer that? I'm not sure that I would be scared that I might answer that. Okay, thanks. I might be scared that I would answer that incorrectly because I'm not 100% certain. I think you can, but I think it depends. That's okay, Eric. I'm sorry that was a little bit waffly, but definitely email your prospective school and explain what you're interested in, and they will let you know specifically what's available to you. But definitely there are, and we have a number of students, a lot of students, non-traditional entry, we call them, or we used to call them, to university. Right, let's have a look at that question. How can we balance academic learning with developing real world skills? That's a good question as well. How can we balance academic learning with developing real world skills employers want? Okay, here we go. So now again, I just remind you, I'm not on commission or anything, but Glasgow Caledonian University is very big on employability, and I see it because I work very closely with students and colleagues in the modules, and each module pretty much has to have some kind of focus on employability, and always mindful that learning doesn't just stop in the classroom, and it doesn't just stop at the end of a student's program of study. There are lots of opportunities to develop employability skills within your program of study, whatever that is for you. Okay, and we want to make sure, whatever level of study, whether it's undergraduate or postgraduate, that that we have graduates from our programs that are ready for employment. So there's big connections between Glasgow Caledonian University and employers as well. Okay, so what do employers want? What are the skills and attributes that they're looking for? And we make sure we develop those in our students. Okay, so there will be lots of opportunity within your program of study for employability skills, and they'll be in what we call embedded. They'll be within particular modules that you're learning in terms of your program. But also there's a fantastic external central kind of career service as well. And I would advise any student to engage with the career service, and they do sort of a number of different things, workshops. Students can have one-to-ones around CVs, developing interview practice, other employability skills, and that's a central service that is open to all students as well. And again, it's a bit like the academic skills development guidance and advice. It's free. It's really, really good. And I would advise any student, and I do advise students who come to see me to make contact with the careers team as well in terms of employability. Okay, so definitely very, very big at Glasgow Caledonian University. We're kind of very vocational in that respect. We definitely want our graduates to be fit for the world of work. Again, whatever your program of study looks like. Okay, Sheila, can you please in summary state the support Learning Development Centre provides for students? Yes, so in summary, which you might have noticed is hard for me because I can talk quite a lot. In summary, The Learning Development Centres are here to support all students, doesn't matter whether they're undergraduate or postgraduate, their level of study, doesn't matter where you come from, what your background is, whether you're a home student or international student. We are to support your academic development journey. So the academic skills aspects of being a student. So anything, I suppose, apart from directly subject content. Okay, so but we do work very, very closely with your module leaders. So to ensure that there is that kind of holistic approach in terms of developing your academic skills. And if we were to look at, for example, marking criteria for any assessment, whether that's a presentation, whether that's a written report, whether that's a group assessment, if we were to look at the marking criteria, so how students are assessed and how they're marked, doesn't matter again what their program of study or the level of study, we will see a certain amount of those marks are definitely attributed to academic skills. So things like structure, maybe critical analysis, academic writing style, use of evidence, they're all academic skills. And so that's our job, the Learning Development Centres. And we all work in very, very different ways. So there's one for each school. Okay, so the Learning Development Centre in that particular school work specifically with students on programs in that school. So the range of support and how it's structured can look slightly different, but it's all essentially about supporting students on their journey of learning. Eric, I love all these questions coming in. Do you or the Health and Life Sciences School absolutely have any networking events or opportunities to shadow people in the workplace? That's a really, really good question. In addition to the course placement. Okay. I can't answer that specifically because I will get it wrong and I don't work in that learning development centre, Eric. But what I would do, I would really advise you to email. So even if it's not directly the Learning Development Centre, if you emailed the top one there, they would know exactly where to signpost you and they can give you a specific answer in regard to that. I know definitely there are networking events because I've seen them. Opportunity to shadow people in the workplace, I'm not quite sure, but I imagine that there would be. Okay, but definitely email for clarity around that. Okay. Thank you, Michelle. So that's the one about changing course. Thank you. That's great. The link for careers, super. Michelle, do you offer help with time management or planning if students are struggling or feeling overwhelmed during trimester with their work? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the main thing we would say, certainly something that I would say, is speak to someone. If you're feeling overwhelmed or you think, do you know what, I'm not getting this at university, or I feel there's too much or whatever. We know that there are many students who perhaps feel like that and don't say anything. And the best thing you can do is speak to someone, whether that's someone directly within your program leader, personal tutor, module leader, but certainly someone like ourselves, an academic development tutor in the Learning Development Centre, and just have that conversation with us. Nobody is expected to know it all. I know as a student, I've been a student many times over, and I've been working in this job for, I don't know, sure how old I am, 15 years or something. There are times when I've literally thought I can't do it anymore, but I've spoken to someone and I've got that guidance. And as I said earlier on, you're not expected to know everything, otherwise you wouldn't be doing your program. So speak to someone, say, do you know, I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed, I'm not managing things or whatever, and then we can think about the best way to put some kind of guidance and support in place. But that's okay, you just need to speak to someone. And I think the thing at university is that support and guidance doesn't necessarily come to you, and it's not because staff don't care, it's quite often a numbers game, and there's also that kind of increased focus on what we would call independent learning. So you have to, as a student, proactively say, look, I'm finding this a little bit challenging. And then the support is there for you, whatever that looks like. Okay. You're very welcome, Sheila. Okay, thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Michelle. Michelle's doing all the hard work here. Okay, let's have a look. Just want to ask, as few students have mentioned feeling this way, and it's great to know the LDC team are available. Absolutely, a university must be proactive in seeking out the assistance they need, and the help is always there. The help, exactly, the help is always there, whatever that looks like. And I think sometimes, particularly for new students, are worried about going to the wrong place, and I always say, well, what's the worst that can happen? You go to the wrong place, and all that member of staff is going to do is signpost you where you should be going. Oh, for that you need to go and see so and so. And again, it takes a while to kind of get to know structures and how things work and where to go for different things, and it's okay to get it wrong, but it's kind of just feeling confident in that it's okay to get it wrong. And I keep saying it, but I'm going to say it again. You're not expected to know everything when you start, otherwise you wouldn't be here. There's no point in being here. But definitely go to the Learning Development Centre. If it's not us, we will, whatever your school is, we will send you where you should be, or maybe it's a bit of us and it also we're recommending something else. But overwhelm and time management and planning, a lot of the work that I do with students involves that. And a lot of the time it's about having the conversation with someone. That I think students find very helpful, and there's not a one size fits all, so having that individual conversation can be really helpful as well. Okay, Victoria, thank you for all this information, very informative. It's really good to know support is available. I'm glad we're here. Now, but what's the best way for students like us to fully use learning and development resources to boost our academic performance and future prospects? That's a really good question. So the first thing I would always say is, as much as possible, and I know that everybody's a human, so it's not always possible, and we're human. I think it's always important to remember that we're human beings, not human doings. Okay, we're not robots and we're not perfect. But as much as you can, try to go to every single timetabled class, because it's all there to help you, and try to engage with any materials that might be provided for you as well. So any tasks that students are advised to do, even if you think, well, that's not directly assessment, so maybe I don't have to do that, but try and do as much of that as possible. Again, that ties in with being proactive as a student. And I'm going to say this, but this is true. I think engaging with your learning development centre, whatever that looks like, depending on your school, is only going to help you in terms of your learning and development. Okay, so finding out as soon as you can in terms of what the learning development centre for your school looks like, how they work with students in programmes within that particular school, and then maybe again having that conversation, making sure that you attend all those sessions. In terms of that in itself is going to help you in terms of your attainment and getting your degree that you come here for, and developing your skills and learning and your future prospects. Engaging with your learning and your modules, there will be employability embedded within that. But also engaging with the career service. They are excellent at the university. So they can, in terms of whatever your future prospects are, whatever your career aspirations are, what that looks like for you, the career service again will tailor what they offer to meet the needs of individual students as well. But definitely engaging with that. Thank you, Michelle. Thanks, Bridget. Oh, I hope so. Remember, any questions, because I know what I'm like as well. I go to a session and I think of a question like the day after or something. Do definitely take a note of your respective school learning development centre email. And just to reiterate, there's no such thing as a silly question. So anything, and even if it's not for us, we'll just send you where you need to be going. Naba, thank you for all the answered questions, a valuable insight. Thank you. You are so welcome, and thank you for coming along today, everybody that signed in. It's really lovely to see you all. I don't know where you all are. I'm just going to say that I'm in Glasgow at the moment, and it's a beautiful sunny day, which isn't always typical of Glasgow, I have to say, but it is beautiful today. I imagine you're all signed in from different places. Sheila, does it mean there is no limitation to how many times you go to the LDC? That's a very good question as well. No, there isn't ordinarily. Now, again, dependent on the school, we might work in slightly different ways. So I can only speak for my school. So in GSBS, how we work is that, so say for example, a one-to-one appointment. So students can't block book a one-to-one appointment. Oh, hi, Eric. You're in Glasgow as well. It's a beautiful day here. Beautiful day, isn't it? So they can't block book. So sometimes, students might think, well, do you know what? I'll book an appointment every week for the next 12 weeks. They can't do that. So the student has to have the appointment, and as soon as they've had that appointment, they can then book another one. So they can't book more than one at a time. The other thing we do is we not rigidly, but we keep half an eye on, because remember that we're always trying to develop those independent learning skills. So if, for example, we do see a student keeps coming back, so sometimes that happens, and sometimes that happens for a very good reason. It's maybe a confidence thing. We might sort of suggest that they don't come back as frequently, but that's rare as well. So ordinarily, I might see students for a very concentrated period of time, then I maybe don't see them for a while, and then we'll see them again around assessment. Or I think, I might sort of say, because we're trying to build confidence and independent learning, say, well, do you know what, you did this in your last assessment, I have confidence in you. You go away, have a go at that, maybe come back with a draft, and we can talk about that. Okay. I have to ask Eric, where have you moved from? I'm being nosy now. So there isn't really a limitation, but that, as I said, Sheila, that might look slightly different if you're in the School of Health and Life Sciences or School of Computing, Engineering and Built Environment. Yeah, maybe you have, Eric. Maybe you did bring the sunshine with you, wherever you've come from. Maybe when you moved, you brought it with you. Sorry, on the email for Health and Life Sciences, is it? Oh, actually, now you've got me thinking. Is it with a don't know what that's called. Hyphen. It's not a hyphen, is that? Underscore. Looks like a space on the slide, but I'm guessing there's meant to be something there. Or it might be, there might actually be an error in my slides. I'm just gonna look it up now, just to double check, unless Michelle's got it. There might be an error on my slides there. Okay. It's an underscore, that's it. Thanks, Michelle. That might be it. The underline is covering it exactly. Well spotted, Eric. So it's LDC underscore HLS at gcu.ac.uk. And you're absolutely right. Where I've returned it and it's underscore underlined it. It's scribbled that out. Yeah, thank you, Michelle. So if there are any prospective students in their program is School of Health and Life Sciences, do note that that email looks different on my slide there. There's an underscore LDC underscore HLS at gcu.ac.uk. Okay, but if you just did a search, and I think Michelle's put the link in as well, GCU Learning Development Centres, you'll get the email as well. Okay, so if there are no more questions, I'm going to wrap up, if that's okay. Just a final reminder again, just email if you've got any further questions or specific questions if you're in a different school. Thank you very much to everyone for joining the session live today. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, whatever you're going on to do. Okay.